basic trigonometry. This is going to be our final lesson of basic trigonometry, all based upon the law of cosines. Now, the law of cosines says that a squared equals b squared plus c squared minus 2bc cosine of angle A. Now, what does that mean? Well, before I describe what that means, it's very important to know when you should use cosine or just which trigonometry unit or lesson you should use. So, basic trigonometry, the first two lessons, right? The Pythagorean theorem and trigonometry, or SOHCAHTOA, is when you have right triangles. That's only used for right triangles, and I already described the difference between Pythagorean theorem and trigonometry in the previous lessons, so maybe go back and watch those. But you should use law of sines when there's no other option. I only say that just because it's a little bit easier to kind of wrap your head around, especially if you're in geometry for 9th and 10th grade. So that's why you should base it off of the law of cosines. Now, you should only use the law of cosines when you have all three sides, as you can see right here. So we have 4, 3, and 1. We have all three sides of the triangle, meaning that you can use law of cosines to find any angle on this triangle. Or you could use law of cosines to find any two sides and the included angle. Now, if you've already done some previous units of geometry, you might know the SAS congruency theorem, or side angle side congruency theorem, where it is a side, an angle, and then a side. It's where you have two sides, right? Two sides, and the angle in between them. So the angle that the two sides form. It's kind of sandwiched in between them. That's why I think of side, angle, side, angle, side, like a little sandwich. So you should use law of cosines for the two sides and the included angle, or if you have all three sides. Trigonometry should be used when you have right triangles. And trigonometry also includes the Pythagorean theorem. A squared plus b squared equals c squared. And law of sines is when none of these three fit. So let's go, we'll use this example, right? We already have it marked up. We have two sides and the included angle trying to find this side, the side of x. So, how do we solve this? Well, we know if we go back to the table, two sides and the included angle, that's going to be law of cosines. So, we use the law of cosines right here. I already read it out for you. A squared equals b squared plus c squared minus 2 times b times c times the cosine of angle A. What does that mean? Well, A right here is always going to be our target angle and the opposite of that target angle. So the target angle is going to be right here. It's A. What do I mean by target angle? Well, it's basically the angle we are working with. So in this case, it's going to be 97. And if you saw the law of sines video, you know that a lowercase a just means the opposite of A. And since A is our target, it's going to be the opposite of 97, or x. So let's just plug in some values, see if it kind of clicks a little easier. So our A value, the opposite of our target, is going to be x. So x squared equals b squared and c squared are interchangeable, just like the Pythagorean theorem, meaning I could either do a squared plus 10 squared, or I could do 10 squared plus 8 squared, just because of the commutative property, which has a multiplication or addition equation. You can flip around the different numbers within it, and it will give you the same answer. So I'm just going to do 8 squared plus 10 squared minus 2 times b and c. Again, it does not matter which one goes first. Times the cosine of angle A. Angle A is our target angle, which is going to be 97 right here. So cosine of 97. So let's simplify it further. X squared equals 8 squared is 64, plus 10 squared is 100, minus 2 times 8 times 10 is going to be 160 times the cosine of 97. So even further, x squared equals 164 minus 160 cosine of 97. Now, if you plug that into your calculator, going to plug it into my calculator here. 164 minus 160 times the cosine of 97. And you should get about, rounding to the nearest tenth, you should get 183.5. So we're done, right? We figured out what x is. Well, no, we figured out what x squared is. And if you remember from the Pythagorean theorem lesson, to reverse a square, you use something called the square root, which looks like this, or the radical. So then we take the radical of this. And another thing you might remember from the Pythagorean theorem video is breaking down square roots, simplifying them instead of just doing the square root. Well, in the law of sines and cosines and most trigonometry, you don't really have to simplify it down. If you have a whole number square root, you should always simplify it. But if you have a decimal, at that point, you might as well just break it down. I'm going to break it down to the nearest tenth. So 183.5, the square root of that is going to be about 13.5, meaning that our x, this side right here, is 13.5. Let's try another example, right? Because I talked about, what if we had all three sides, but no angles, right? Maybe we have another angle, but we have all three sides. Now we can find any angle on this triangle. Specifically for this problem, it's going to be x. So we have our formula here. Our target angle is going to be the angle we're trying to solve for in this case, which is going to be our x angle. So the opposite of the x angle is 3. So 3 squared equals, yet again, 4 and 5 are interchangeable. So 4 squared plus 5 squared minus 2, 4, 5. Cosine, and since our target angle is x, it's just going to be the cosine of x. So let's simplify it further. 3 squared is 9 equals 16 plus 25. The squares of each of those, which this is now going to be minus 40 cosine of x. Even further simplified, 9 equals 41 minus 40 cosine of x. Let's break it down even further. Let's minus 41 from this side, which will cancel it out. What you do to one side, you gotta do to the other, which means that 9 minus 41, negative 32 equals negative 40 cosine of x. And since it's just going to be two negatives here, I can just already tell you they're going to cancel out, but we'll just keep going just so you can see that it will cancel out on its own. So now what we do is we divide each side by negative 40 so that we can isolate the cosine of x. So divide each side by negative 40. So now we know that the cosine of x equals negative 32 over negative 40. So how do we reverse the cosine? How do you reverse the cosine? Well, there's a thing that you might remember called the arc cosine, which looks a little something like this. So, arc cosine both sides. If you remember, you can kind of go back to older lessons. It's very important that you watch the previous lessons because this is very, the law of cosines is very built off of that. But if you do this x, let me just type that into my calculator right here. This should get you about 36.9. That's going to be in degrees. I usually forget to mark it like that. But so that means that the variable we're trying to solve for is 36.9 degrees right there. So that is going to be the law of cosines. That's going to do it for the basic trigonometry unit I have just given you. Thanks for watching.